Hello, I am Deborah Mitchell, and welcome to another episode of Legally Speaking. I am here from Grossman Law Firm, and we are located in Valley, Alabama, and we practice Social Security disability law and primarily Social Security disability law. You can reach our law firm either by telephone 334-756-3529 or 334-756-3LAW, or you can also check us out on the website, which is www.rnlawyer.net. Well, as you can see, I am flying solo today, but I do have tons of great and interesting information to share with you. And the first part of the show is kind of going to be separate from the second part. So just so you know, there's going to be a lot of interesting and different things that we don't normally talk about on the second part of the show. We're reconstructing the show a little bit, so you definitely don't want to miss the second half of the show. Today, I'm branching out a little bit, and I'm going to talk about some things that I've not really touched on before. No spoiler alerts, but I can promise you that you will be very disappointed if you miss the second half of the show, so please stay tuned. Also, I wanted to let you know that in upcoming episodes of Legally Speaking, we're going to, as we restructure, be doing things a little bit differently, and we'll be having guests on the show. And the guest will be of all walks of life, different areas, whether it be from the medical field, the legal field, and sometimes exercise physiology and that sort of thing. We just want to give you guys more information on different types of medical conditions and how it affects your life and your ability to function on a daily basis. And also diet and exercise and things that you can do to maybe improve your quality of life and that kind of thing. So we're really, really excited about that. So we're going to have a lot of interesting guests and so much more. So be sure to continue watching Legally Speaking as we broaden our horizons and try to offer you more in the process. And that also leads me into, it's a good segue, if there's some things that you have a particular interest in that you would like to know more about, whether it's from a medical aspect or a legal aspect. And as I said, we're also going to incorporate diet and exercise into our show some as well. Just give us a call at the office. Again, that's 334-756-39. Or you can look at our website, www.rnlawyer.net, and you can contact us that way and give us ideas or suggestions if there's something that you think you may be interested in, because we're always open to ideas about things that our audience is interested in. And those requests are always welcome, as you know. Most of our regular viewers know that at Grossman Law Firm we practice primarily Social Security disability law. We do branch out some and do different things, deeds and wills and healthcare power of attorneys and that kind of thing. But primarily it is Social Security disability law. And at our office, we feel like focusing in on one thing primarily is very helpful to our claimants, because as a nurse, of course, I've worked in the medical arena, and as a lawyer, I've worked in the legal arena. But just putting those two things together and clearly trying to understand each and every medical impairment to the best of our ability, and then to sort of fit that together with the ever-changing Social Security disability laws, I think is very, very helpful in trying to guide our clients and assist our clients through the disability appeals process, which can be not only time-consuming, but there's a lot of red tape when you're dealing with the federal government. From the time you apply for disability and you file your appeal, as I said, the laws are ever changing, and just having someone guide you and help you through those steps is very important. The legal aspect is extremely important. What we try to do is in addition to that, bring in the medical knowledge and put those two things together and work with them, whether it's from a medical impairment that a claimant may have, or if it's a psychological impairment. And sometimes it's a combination of both medical and psychological. Many of our claimants that have applied for disability benefits, because they can't work and do what they did before, tend to suffer with a lot of depression, and that's nothing to be embarrassed about. It is depressing when you're used to being the sole provider for your family, and then all of a sudden you're not able to do that anymore because you're not physically able to do that. So the two tend to go hand in hand. So like I said, knowing the law is very, very important. And that is no easy task, of course, but it is ever changing, and that is only half of the equation. So knowing the medical aspect tends to put the whole picture together. We want to look at the big picture and put all of the pieces of the puzzle together to better understand. And in doing this, we're able to expedite the cases in many circumstances. And what I mean by that is when you fully understand one's medical and their psychological impairments and you put it together in the illegal arena, sometimes, not always, but sometimes we're able to help the case move along a little faster. Typically in the state of Alabama, it takes about 12 months from the time you're denied your disability benefits until you have a hearing in front of an administrative law judge. Now in Georgia, it's a little bit different. They do have one extra step, which is called a reconsideration process. And in Georgia, it can be 12 to 18 months, sometimes a little bit longer. And we do handle cases in both Alabama and Georgia, and we handle cases for both adults and children. So we do all of that. And of course, in processing claims and in trying to get all the information that we can from our claimants and in understanding all of their impairments, this really, in a sense, helps you get the benefits you deserve in a timely manner. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes we're able to get the benefits without actually going to a hearing. And what that is called is an on-the-record decision. And in many cases, when our appeals manager takes the cases in, and most of you know her from watching the show, Samantha, she's been with us about 10 years now at Grossman Law Firm. When she takes the cases in and she reviews all of the medical and psychological impairments and compares that with the law, she and I discuss each and every case. And if we feel like that's the case that we can win on the record, then we file a brief and request that Social Security go ahead and pay that case. There's no point in waiting 12 months, 18 months, or longer if we have all the evidence that we need right then to get the case paid. One of the things that I found in practicing law, and I've been doing this about 12 years now, is that claimants sometimes take their denials personally, and I would encourage you not to do that. As a general rule, Social Security will deny over 98% of their claimants. They just deny it for whatever reason. Some people say that it's rubber stamped. Typically what I find is that for one reason or another, they do find a way to deny approximately 98% of the claimants. What I have found, and I find this to be disturbing, is that some of the claimants take it personally that they were denied, and they say, well, the federal government says that I'm not disabled, so guess what? I'm going to try to go back to work. This person may have had a back injury, a shoulder injury, it could have been anything. And when they go back and try to do work, because they've been told by the government that they're not disabled, in a lot of cases, these people tend to hurt themselves more. So they have to go back, reapply for benefits, and then they're in a worse position 3, 6, 12 months down the road than they were when they first applied for benefits. So that is something to keep in mind. We get a lot of calls at the office about people that have possible disabling conditions. They may have medical impairments, anything from diabetes mellitus to osteoarthritis, degenerative disc disease. We have so many people with multiple medical problems. As I said before, there's even fibromyalgia has recently become a big issue that we're dealing with some of our claimants, in addition to problems that they're having with their neck, back, shoulders, hips, legs, the chronic intense pain that they're suffering on a daily basis. It could be related to the fibromyalgia, it could be related to other medical conditions. But one of the things that we try to do is get you to come in and talk to us about that. All consultations are free. So if you or a family member or a friend think you may have a medical condition, contact us and we can give you a free consultation and help guide you through that.
Hi, I'm Dr. John Mitchell with the Heart Center, Auburn-Opelika area. Want to invite you to stay tuned with us over the next few months. The Heart of the Matter, we're going to be discussing some heart issues. You can reach us in the Auburn-Opelika area at 2375 Champions Boulevard, or you can call us at 334-321-3700. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.
My name is Joe Chatham, and I needed help to get my disability, and people out on the street told me to come see Deborah Grossman, and I did. And I came in and she told me what I needed to go do to get it started. So I went and did that, and then they denied it. And she told me to bring it back, and I did. And she took care of it from then on. And then it took her a total of 8 months to get my disability, which is 3 times faster than anybody else that I've heard of getting it.
Welcome back to Legally Speaking, and I'm your host today, Deborah Mitchell, and I am flying solo from Grayson Law Firm. Be sure to check out our website at www.rnlawyer.net, or you can give us a call at 334-756-3LAW, or check out our Facebook page. That's listed under Graceman Law Practice, so that's a little bit different. But as promised at the beginning of the first segment of the show, I told you that we're going to talk about something a little bit different the second half. We've had some questions and some calls coming into our office wanting to know the difference between certain civil and criminal cases. Essentially, there are 3 types of law. There's criminal law, there's civil law, and there's administrative law. And while I practice primarily Social Security disability law, as a lawyer, I have studied and at different times practiced other types of law. Of course, civil law deals primarily with contracts, divorce, and personal injury, that sort of thing. And if you're in front of a jury and you have a civil case, then you're going to need to prove that by a preponderance of the evidence or with clear and convincing evidence. Now, if you're in front of a jury trying to prove a criminal case, the prosecutor or the DA, the one that works for the state or federal government, has to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's a very, very high burden of proof, beyond a reasonable doubt. So I also have had some questions come in, and I just wanted to touch on this because I found that people have asked, well, what is a grand jury? What does a grand jury do versus a jury that you see in a courtroom? What's the difference? What do they do? What is an indictment? Well, I'd like to address, first of all, let me tell you what an indictment is. An indictment, simply put, without going into a lot of legal jargon, an indictment is a piece of paper that informs the defendant what he or she has been charged with. It's not a conviction. It's not a notice that someone is guilty. It is simply a piece of paper telling someone what they have been charged with. How do you get an indictment? Where does that come from? Does it just come out of the air? Does somebody just hand it to you? No, an indictment comes from a grand jury. And the grand jury is a type of jury that is gathered to analyze evidence that is presented to them by a prosecutor. This could be by a district attorney from the state or the federal government. And a grand jury typically consists of about 23 people in most cases. And while they play a very important role in the judicial process, they do not determine whether a person is guilty or innocent. A grand jury convenes in a private setting, and it's usually in a sealed setting, and a prosecutor presents to them their evidence or their witnesses. There's no judge present. There's no lawyers except for the prosecutor. There's typically no defendant present. There's not someone there that the charges are being brought against. And the prosecutor provides the grand jury with their evidence. And in providing them with their evidence and their witnesses, they're asking the grand jury at the conclusion of the presentation of their evidence for an indictment. So there's broad powers there, and in a courtroom where it's open to the public, it's not private and closed like a grand jury, there is a judge. There is the public's there. They're allowed to be there. Like I said, it's not private. The defendant is there. The defendant has a lawyer there. It's not a private, closed setting. And a defendant has the opportunity to defend himself in a court of law, not in front of a grand jury. That's not what a grand jury does. A defendant does not get to come and defend himself or herself in front of a grand jury. That's not what it's all about. The role of them, like I said, is to listen to evidence that's presented to them by the prosecutor from the federal or state government to determine whether or not they will issue an indictment. So that is something that has come up a lot lately because there's a lot of confusion about when people watch TV, they see juries on TV, and those juries are in open court. That's an open court of law, and those are public. And most of the time you can see people out in the arena or watching the court case sometimes. That's not the case with a grand jury. Again, just to be clear, a grand jury does not determine whether or not someone is guilty or if they're innocent. They simply listen to the evidence that's presented to them by the prosecutor that works for the federal or state government and determine whether or not an indictment is to be issued against a defendant. And an indictment is simply a piece of paper that informs the defendant of what he or she has been charged with based on the evidence that's been presented to the grand jury in private according to whatever witnesses or evidence that the prosecutor has given them. So that is just something to keep in mind. There is a lot of confusion about that, and the proceedings are sealed, so in some cases the defendant may not even know that a grand jury is convening to listen to evidence against them. The prosecutor is by no means required to tell the defendant, hey, I'm convening a grand jury to listen to evidence against you. They don't have to do that. And in most cases, they don't do that. The evidence rules, as I said, are very, very flexible when it comes to a grand jury. However, in court, they're strict, or they're much more strict when it comes to court because you do have a judge there that's present. You have open court with a jury. You have a defendant that is there with his or her attorneys, and at this time the defendant is able to actually defend himself in front of a jury of his or her peers that have been chosen by both sides, the prosecutor and the defendant. They choose a jury to listen to a case. So it's very important. People are a little bit confused sometimes, and I find that people that have worked in the legal field or in law offices for a long time didn't really understand what a grand jury was and what their role was in the judicial system and what an indictment was. I've had people ask me, well, does an indictment mean that someone is guilty of something? Does it mean that they did something wrong? Again, it is a list of charges that is given to the defendant based on evidence that the prosecution from the federal or state government has presented to the grand jury, and based on that evidence, they issue an indictment. It doesn't always happen, but and I really don't know the percentage that it happens in, but because the proceeding is held in private, and in most cases the jury's only hearing one side of the story, indictments are issued quite frequently. So I just wanted to answer that question and to clear it up. And if you have any other questions regarding that, feel free to call our office. That's not typically something that we talk about here on Legally Speaking, because that's not the type of law that I practice. But I have been asked that question a lot, and I feel like I just wanted to share that with you, just to help maybe educate some of our viewers that may not be aware of that process. And getting back to Grossman Law Firm, and what we do there primarily is Social Security disability law, and all of our consultations are free, and there are no out-of-pocket upfront costs to our claimants. You can reach us at 334-756-3529. You can visit our website at www.rnlawyer.net. Or you can visit our Facebook page, and that's at Grossman Law Practice. I did have a couple of claimants that came in the other day, and they were wondering about whether or not I felt like they had a good case. And what I told them was that at Grossman Law Firm, in taking your Social Security disability cases, we only take cases that we feel are good cases. Because of course, if we don't win your case, then we don't get paid. Because we only get paid by the government from your back pay if we win your case. So it's important to know that whenever you come in for a consultation, we will be very upfront and honest with you about whether or not we think you have a case. Because if you don't have a case, then we just won't take it, because that's just not something that we do. We do have information for some of our claimants that have been on disability for a while, and they feel like they've gotten better and they want to go back to work. We can provide information about vocational rehabilitation. They have offices all over East Alabama and West Georgia. We can provide that information to you. And also, some of our claimants that are in the process of trying to get their disability benefits are not able to afford medical care. And if you will contact us, we have a list of indigent health care providers in East Alabama and West Georgia. Some are low cost, some are no cost. So if you want to contact our office, we can help you get you in with some medical providers or psychological providers to help you with your medical needs until we can help get your benefits. There's also some help as far as medications is concerned that we can work on for you there. So if you will give us a call, we can certainly get you taken care of in that way. And I just wanted to thank you for joining us for another episode of Legally Speaking. And keep in mind, in our upcoming shows, we're going to have some really new and exciting things to offer. We'll have some guests on the shows that can give you better insight into medical conditions, diet, exercise, and different legal aspects too, not only from disability, but from other things. As we broaden our horizons, we want to serve our audience and talk about the things that you would like to hear and like to see. So if you have any suggestions, again, just feel free to contact us and make those recommendations, because we're very receptive and very open to that. We're looking forward to all of the new shows that are coming up, the new episodes, meeting with our new guest. Some very exciting people are going to be on the show that I think you're going to be very, very happy with. And in the meantime, if you have any additional questions or if you have anything that you would like for me to discuss, please feel free to contact us 334-756-3LAW or check out our website www.rnlawyer.net or look us up on Facebook. It's under Grossman Law Practice. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Legally Speaking, and I look forward to seeing you next time.